said, I'm Nate Gehres. I'm with the Applegate Partnership and Watershed Council. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. I know it's been a long day. I'll try to keep this nice and short so we can all get out and enjoy this beautiful sunshine. I was born and raised in Applegate, and I've been back for about 5 years now working with the Watershed Council. The last 2 years or so, I've been dealing with fuels and fire primarily. And that's what I wanted to get into today. It's basically what we've been able to accomplish in 2024 and the beginning of 2025 and where we hope to go from here. You'll see a lot of the same themes that have come up with other people's presentations. So my project, and it's an unfortunate name, everybody told me it was too long and I didn't pay any attention, but it's the Upper Applegate All Lands Wildfire Resiliency Project, the UAAWRP, which sounds like a radio station. So this whole project's focus is to basically reduce the risk of an uncharacteristically severe wildfire coming into the Applegate. So we're looking at doing fuels reduction work on private lands. And once again, the common theme, we're focusing on egress and ingress, those shared driveways, those public roads, so we can get residents out and firefighting resources in. After that, we can worry about saving your house or other things like that, but the primary concern is getting residents out and getting firefighters in. The project itself provides financial assistance to help with that. I was looking at covering 75 to 90% of the total cost to do the fuels reduction work, and I must say we ended up much more at the 90% end of the spectrum with this work, because there's a lot of people out here with limited resources, and this is important work to get done. So I was trying to get that cost share to extend the funding as far as possible, and also to get some buy-in from landowners, because as we all know, if you have a little bit of skin in the game, if you're paying for the work a little bit, you value it a little bit more, and you might maintain it a little bit longer. The other thing is we're only looking at employing local contractors, so we're trying to keep the economic benefit within the valley and build that capacity. Have more people with the skill set out here that can do the fuels reduction work. Keep those wildland firefighters employed in the off-season, in the shoulder seasons. And the final thing is to empower these landowners so that we can get their property to a point that they can maintain it going forward. And I think we actually met all those goals. By May of 2025, when this project will end, we'll have treated 161 acres. We'll have cut and processed 765 hazard trees, and those are the trees that are 8 inches in diameter and bigger, that most companies and most people can't cut because it requires higher workers' comp insurance, general insurance, and also you need but a higher certification for your sawyers to tackle trees of that size, because they're just a little bit more dangerous. We also put in about 1 mile of fuel breaks, which generally bordered BLM lands, trying to keep fires that originated on private land from going into the public land, and fires on the public land going into the private land. A fuel break is basically we went in with a bladed piece of equipment and just cut to mineral soil. Not only removed all the fuels, but all the grasses, all the forbs. It's bare mineral soil for 8 feet. Very unlikely that a low-level fire will go across that. That's my understanding. I should also say that having been doing this work for 2 years, I'm probably the least experienced person to get up here to talk today, so I'm learning quickly, but there's a lot to learn. I assessed 60 properties in the last year and a half. We did contract work on 29 properties, and did work on 29 properties, and we have another 11 properties under contract. So that's gonna be 40 in total out of the 60 that I visited. That's pretty significant. And we worked with 10 local contractors. Those aren't all individuals. Some of those are a contractor that's a 10-person saw crew. So it employed a significant number of locals. Hopefully help the local economy a bit. Funding sources. Work like this is not cheap, and it requires a lot of money. So we started this project with a Natural Resource Conservation Service. Here we go into the alphabet soup. Environmental Quality Incentives Program through a Conservation Implementation Strategy. So that brought in $2 million, but that money only goes to implementation. There's no money in that to support my time or to do any assessments. It all goes to implementation. So then I went out and I got a quarter million dollar ODF grant, and then Brian got $130,000 for Wagon Trail. So that's the ODF grant there. I also went out and got a stakeholder outreach grant from OWEB for $38,000, which would cover my time, outreach, events like this, but also going out and assessing the properties, talking to landowners, doing some of the paperwork. Brian got some Oregon State Fire Marshal funding, also the Roundhouse Grant, and the Northwest Youth Corps Development Grant to expand that implementation. And then we get into the stuff that isn't quite as much fun. So I was very excited. I got a $2 million grant to fund 3 more years of this work, and unfortunately, that one's frozen. We'll see how it goes. There's some good rumblings. It was 1.5 years of work to get that grant. I really hope that we will see some of that funding coming into the Applegate. Because the other thing about that, $2 million of the $2 million of a $5 million grant is coming to the Applegate, but the other $3 million is going to the rest of the state. And if we hadn't applied for this grant, no money would have been coming to the state. So not only does the Applegate miss out on $2 million, but the rest of the state misses out on $3 million. Hopefully that gets through. And then, as Brian talked about his Title IIs, hopefully those are all coming through. They were all funded, but everything's kind of uncertain at the federal level right now. Then the other thing that was a little bit unfortunate, we got a community wildfire defense grant to update our community wildfire protection plan. That's that guidance document. For the next 10 years, it lays out where we should do fuels reduction work. What's the important infrastructure, such as repeater stations for first responders, cell phone towers, utility substations that we need to protect. It's the document that guides not only what we're doing on private land, but what the agencies are going to do. It brings us all to the table. It has a lot of meetings like this, and the really important part of that is it's community. It's supposed to be community-driven. I was looking at doing 15 meetings where community members were going to come out and what are your concerns? What are your priorities? And that was going to direct what we did over the next 10 years. That's also frozen. Hopefully that's going to get released sometime soon, but we're not waiting around. So I went and applied to Philanthropy Northwest last week for $250,000 to replace that. Brian just put in a $350,000 grant to Philanthropy Northwest for more implementation funding. We're doing what we can with what we have, and it's becoming more and more clear that we need to do things at a community level. Neighbors helping neighbors, neighborhoods helping each other, because there's less capacity, less resources out there than there were a year ago. It behooves us to be proactive, to keep this momentum going, and once again, do what we can with the resources we have now, because there's no guarantee there's more resources coming. We're all trying, but it's uncertain. One other thing I wanted to talk about is we were mentioning a bit of Title II. We've also had some Title II fundings coming from the BLM that we've done some pretty amazing, we meaning the partnership. My coworker Caleb is out there at Cantor Buckley Park right now. He cleared with the crew, 13.5 acres of fuels along the riparian. In the wayside, I don't know if you noticed that or not, but the wayside there on Hamilton Road, you can now walk it. All the blackberries are gone. All the dead trees are gone. It's now an actual park setting again. The riparian in the park itself, in the grassy area. You can walk to the river now. It's not all blackberries. That was BLM Title II funds that did that. We also have a project out at the Provo Recreation Site where we're going to be putting large wood in and making pools and keeping the water there longer. That's Title II funds. We did a project out at Cheney Creek, large wood and BLM section, and we're going to do another large wood placement on private land to improve the habitat, to keep the water there longer. That's all BLM Title II dollars. And then the Provo Recreation Site itself, all the upland work that was done there, all the work that was done in the riparian was all from Title II dollars from the BLM, and they've been a great partner on that. That's been amazing. I don't know if you guys read the Applicator, but I'm in there quite a bit. So we'll get the word out. And once again, if you're on my list, when the funding gets freed up, you'll be one of the first people I contact. I don't know if I'm going to be trumpeting it from the rooftops if the funding all goes away. I'll probably be crying in my beer for a little bit and then letting people know. Once again, it was about 1.5 years of work on my time to get those grants that have been frozen. So I highly recommend, if people are interested, get on my list. I'll contact you as soon as I have resources, and something will shake loose. We will find some funding somewhere. It's just when is the question. Oh. Cool.